My sister stole my fiancé and destroyed my engagement with family's help. Years later they're begging for money after I became successful. I, 28F, need to get this off my chest because I've been carrying this for 3 years now. My family consists of my parents and my younger sister Zoe, 26F. Growing up, Zoe was always the favorite child. She was the one who got the birthday parties, the new clothes, and all the attention. I learned early on to stay quiet and not ask for much. When I was 12 and Zoe was 10, I won the regional math competition for our district. I came home with the trophy and certificate, excited to show my parents. My dad barely looked up from his newspaper when I told him. My mom just nodded and said that's nice. The same day, Zoe had performed in a small school assembly where she forgot half her lines and stumbled through her poem. My parents spent the entire evening praising her performance and telling her how talented she was. They called our grandparents to tell them about Zoe's poetry recital. Nobody mentioned my competition win. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. When I made honor roll, they would focus on Zoe's B+ in art class. When I got accepted to a good college with a partial scholarship, they threw a party for Zoe getting her driver's license the same week. I stopped expecting recognition and just focused on my studies. In college, I studied computer science and graduated with honors. I got a good job at a tech company in our hometown. Zoe dropped out after 2 years and moved back home. My parents never criticized her decision. They said she was finding herself and that not everyone was meant for academics. When I bought my first car with my own money, they told me I should have consulted them first. When Zoe crashed their car twice in 1 month, they bought her a new one. 2 years ago, I met Alex, 29M, at a work conference. He was a software engineer from another company. We started dating and things got serious quickly. Alex was the first person who really listened to me and treated me like I mattered. After 8 months, he proposed. I was over the moon and couldn't wait to share the news with my family. When I told my parents about the engagement, they seemed happy but not overly excited. My mom asked basic questions about the wedding plans and when they would meet him. My dad congratulated me and went back to watching TV. Zoe was visiting that day and she hugged me and said she was excited to meet my fiancé. I thought maybe this time would be different. I arranged for Alex to meet my family at Sunday dinner 2 weeks later. I had told him about the family dynamics but he said he was sure they would love him once they got to know him. Alex is charming and good looking. He has a great sense of humor and can talk to anyone about anything. The dinner started normally. Alex brought flowers for my mom and shook hands with my dad. He was polite and engaging. Then Zoe came downstairs. She had clearly spent extra time getting ready. Her hair was perfect and she wore a dress I had never seen before. She immediately started asking Alex questions about his work and his hobbies. She laughed at everything he said and found excuses to touch his arm when she talked. I watched Alex's face change throughout the evening. He started paying more attention to Zoe's stories than mine. When Zoe mentioned she was thinking about going back to school for graphic design, Alex got excited and started talking about design principles and color theory. I didn't know he was interested in those things. Zoe hung on every word. My parents were delighted with how well Alex and Zoe were getting along. My mom kept commenting on how nice it was to see Zoe so animated and engaged. My dad actually put down his phone to listen to their conversation. I sat at the same table but felt like I wasn't there. After dinner, Zoe offered to show Alex the garden while I helped my mom with dishes. Through the kitchen window, I could see them walking around the backyard. Zoe was doing most of the talking and Alex was nodding and laughing. They stayed out there for almost an hour. When I asked my mom what she thought of Alex, she said he seemed very nice and that he and Zoe had really hit it off. She mentioned how good it was to see Zoe excited about something again. She didn't ask what I thought about how the evening went. Over the next few weeks, Alex started acting different. He would check his phone more often and sometimes smile at messages before quickly putting his phone away. When I asked about wedding venues, he said we should wait a bit longer to make sure we were ready. He started working late more often and couldn't meet my family for dinners I had planned. One evening, Alex came to my apartment and sat me down. He looked uncomfortable and couldn't meet my eyes. He said he had something difficult to tell me. He said he had been talking to Zoe and that they had developed feelings for each other. He said it wasn't planned and that he felt terrible about it. He said Zoe understood him in a way that was different and that he thought we should call off the engagement. I asked him how long this had been going on. He said they had been texting since the dinner and had met for coffee a few times. He said nothing physical had happened but that he couldn't ignore his feelings. He said he hoped I could understand and that he wanted to stay friends. He took off the ring and left it on my coffee table. He hugged me and left. I sat in my apartment for 2 hours staring at the ring. I called my mom and told her what happened. I expected her to be shocked or angry on my behalf. Instead, she sighed and said these things happen sometimes. She said Alex was a good man for being honest about his feelings instead of cheating. She said I would find someone else and that I should try to be happy for Zoe if she found love. I asked her if she knew this was happening. She said Zoe had mentioned that she and Alex were talking but that she didn't know it was serious. She said Zoe had been so much happier lately and that she deserved to have good things happen to her. She said Zoe had struggled so much after dropping out of college and that maybe this was her chance to get back on track. I hung up and called Zoe directly. She picked up on the first ring and started talking immediately. She said she was sorry and that she never meant for this to happen. She said Alex had reached out to her first after the dinner and that they just connected. She said she tried to fight her feelings but couldn't. She said she hoped I could forgive her and that we could still be sisters. I asked her why she thought it was okay to pursue my fiancé. She said love doesn't follow rules and that she couldn't help who she had feelings for. She said Alex had told her that he realized we weren't right for each other and that he would have broken up with me anyway. She said at least this way I found out before the wedding instead of after. 3 weeks later, my mom called to tell me that Alex and Zoe were officially dating. She said they seemed very happy together and that Alex had been spending a lot of time at the house. She said my dad really liked him and that they had been working on a project in the garage together. She asked if I wanted to come to dinner soon to see how everyone was doing. I told her I needed time to process everything. She said she understood but that I shouldn't let this affect my relationship with the family. She said Zoe felt terrible about how things happened and that she missed me. She said it would mean a lot to Zoe if I could show that I supported her happiness. I realized that nothing was going to change. My parents would always choose Zoe over me. They would always find ways to justify her actions and minimize my pain. I decided I was done trying to be part of a family that didn't want me. I stopped answering their calls and didn't respond to their texts. I blocked Alex and Zoe on all social media. I focused on my work and started saving money to move away. 6 months later, I got a job offer in a different state. I took it without telling my family. I packed my things and left town. I didn't leave a forwarding address. That was 2 years ago. I built a new life here. I got promoted twice and bought a house. I started learning photography as a hobby and I'm actually pretty good at it. I made new friends and joined a hiking group. I met someone new 6 months ago and we're taking things slow but it's going well. Last week, my cousin Lisa, 32F, called me. She still lives in my hometown and we've stayed in touch. She told me some interesting news about my family. Apparently, Alex and Zoe broke up 8 months ago. Alex lost his job during company layoffs and couldn't find work in the same field. He started drinking more and became bitter about his situation. Zoe got tired of supporting him and dealing with his complaints. She broke up with him and moved back in with my parents. Lisa said Zoe has been miserable since the breakup. She's not working and spends most of her time in her room. My parents have been arguing more because my dad is frustrated with having Zoe back home with no plans. Alex apparently tried to contact me through mutual friends to apologize, but I haven't responded. Lisa also told me that my parents have been asking about me. They found out about my promotions and my house through mutual acquaintances. My mom has been telling people how proud she is of me and how successful I've become. She's been asking Lisa for my contact information. Yesterday, my mom found my work email address and sent me a long message. She said she missed me and wanted to talk. She said she realized she had made mistakes and that she wanted to make things right. She said the family wasn't the same without me and that she hoped I could forgive them. She said Zoe was going through a hard time and could use my support as her sister. I haven't responded to the email. Part of me wants to tell them exactly what I think about their sudden change of heart. But another part of me wants to just delete the message and pretend I never saw it. I've worked hard to build a life without them and I don't know if I want to open that door again. I don't know what to do. I decided to think about it for a few weeks before making any decisions. Last week, my cousin Lisa called me again with more information. She said my mom had been asking everyone in our extended family for my phone number and address. She was telling people that there had been a misunderstanding and that she needed to reach me to clear things up. Lisa said my mom was making it sound like I had overreacted to a small family disagreement. Lisa also told me that my mom had been posting about me on social media. She was sharing old photos of us together and writing captions about how much she missed her daughter. She was getting sympathy from friends and neighbors who didn't know the real story. People were commenting that they hoped we could work things out and that family was the most important thing. This made me angry. My mom was rewriting history and making herself look like the victim. She was getting attention and sympathy for missing me while completely ignoring why I left in the first place. I decided I needed to set the record straight. I created a new email address and sent my mom a response. I told her I had received her message and that I wanted to be clear about a few things. I explained that I didn't leave because of a misunderstanding. I left because my parents had consistently chosen Zoe over me my entire life and because they supported her stealing my fiancé. I told her that their sudden interest in me had nothing to do with missing me and everything to do with the fact that I was successful while Zoe was struggling. I told her that if she really wanted to make amends, she needed to acknowledge what actually happened instead of pretending it was all a big misunderstanding. I said I wasn't interested in being their backup daughter when their favorite child disappointed them. I told her to stop posting about me on social media and to stop telling people we had a minor disagreement. My mom responded within an hour. Her email was much different than the first one. She was defensive and angry. She said I was being unfair and that I was remembering things wrong. She said every parent has different relationships with their children and that didn't mean they loved one child more than the other. She said what happened with Alex and Zoe was unfortunate but that I was acting like a child by running away instead of working through it as a family. She said Zoe had been devastated when I left and that she had been asking about me constantly. She said Zoe wanted to apologize and explain her side of the story. She said I was being selfish by refusing to forgive my sister when she was going through such a difficult time. She said the family needed me right now and that I was abandoning them when they needed support. The email made me realize that my mom still didn't understand what she had done wrong. She was still making excuses and trying to guilt me into coming back. She was still more concerned about Zoe's feelings than mine. Nothing had actually changed except that now I was the successful one and Zoe was the one struggling. I forwarded the email to Lisa and asked for her honest opinion. Lisa called me immediately. She said my mom's response proved that she hadn't learned anything. She said my mom was still treating me like I existed to serve the family's needs instead of having my own feelings and boundaries. Lisa also told me something else that my mom hadn't mentioned. Apparently, my dad had been laid off from his job 3 months ago. He was having trouble finding new work because he was older and his skills were outdated. Money was getting tight with both my dad and Zoe unemployed. Lisa suspected that my mom's sudden interest in reconnecting had something to do with the fact that I was doing well financially. This information made everything click into place. My parents weren't reaching out because they missed me or because they realized they had treated me poorly. They were reaching out because they needed something from me. They probably hoped I would help support the family or let Zoe move in with me or something similar. I decided to test this theory. I sent my mom another email. I told her that I appreciated her reaching out, but that I wasn't ready to rebuild our relationship. I said I needed time to process everything and that I would contact her when I was ready to talk. I made no mention of visiting or helping with anything. 2 days later, I got an email from Zoe. She said she had gotten my email address from mom and that she needed to talk to me. She said she knew I was angry with her but that she hoped I could put that aside because she really needed my help. She said she was going through the worst time of her life and that she didn't have anyone else to turn to. She said she was sorry about what happened with Alex and that she realized she had made a mistake. She said Alex had turned out to be completely different than she thought and that the relationship had been a disaster. She said she understood now why I was upset and that she wanted to make it up to me. Then she got to the real reason for her email. She said she was thinking about moving to my city to get a fresh start. She said she had looked into jobs and apartments but everything was expensive. She asked if she could stay with me for a few months while she got on her feet. She said it would be a good chance for us to rebuild our relationship and that she promised she wouldn't be any trouble. I stared at the email for a long time. The audacity was incredible. She had stolen my fiancé, my parents had supported her, and now she wanted to move into my house and start over in my city. She wanted me to help her escape the consequences of her own actions. I showed the email to my boyfriend Marcus, 31M. I had told him about my family situation early in our relationship. He read the email and shook his head. He said it was obvious that my family only wanted me back because they needed something from me. He said I should be proud of myself for building a life without their support and that I shouldn't let them take advantage of my success. I wrote back to Zoe and told her that I wouldn't be able to help her with housing. I said I hoped she could figure out her situation but that I wasn't the right person to ask for help. I said I needed to focus on my own life and that I wished her the best. Zoe responded immediately. She said she couldn't believe I was being so cold and selfish. She said family was supposed to help each other and that she would do the same for me if our situations were reversed. She said I was holding a grudge over something that happened years ago and that I needed to grow up and move on. She said mom and dad were really struggling right now and that I was the only one in the family who was doing well. She said it wasn't fair for me to have a nice house and a good job while they were all suffering. She said I owed it to the family to help since they had supported me growing up. The email confirmed everything I suspected. They didn't want me back because they loved me or missed me. They wanted me back because I was successful and they thought I owed them something. They still didn't think they had done anything wrong and they expected me to forget the past and take care of them now. I didn't respond to Zoe's email. Instead, I blocked her email address and my mom's email address. I told Lisa that I didn't want to hear any more updates about my family unless it was an emergency. I changed my work email and told my boss that if anyone from my hometown contacted the office looking for me, they should be told I no longer work there. I realized that cutting contact had been the right decision the first time. My family hadn't changed. They were still the same people who had ignored me my whole life and supported Zoe when she stole my fiancé. The only difference now was that they thought they could use my success to solve their problems. I thought maybe they had finally gotten the message that I wasn't going to help them. I was wrong. Last month, my cousin Lisa called me with some concerning news. She said my mom had been driving around town asking people if they knew how to contact me. She had gone to my old workplace and tried to get my forwarding address from HR. When they wouldn't give her the information, she started crying in the lobby and telling anyone who would listen that her daughter had disappeared and she was worried about my safety. Lisa said my mom was telling people that I had cut off all contact after a family disagreement and that she was afraid something bad had happened to me. She was asking if anyone had friends or relatives in my new city who might know where I was. She was making it sound like I was missing instead of purposely avoiding contact. This worried me because my mom was involving other people and potentially giving out information about where I lived. I asked Lisa to please not give anyone my contact information no matter what story my mom told. Lisa promised she wouldn't share anything but she said other family members might not be as careful. 2 weeks later, I got a Facebook friend request from someone I didn't recognize. The profile had no photos and very little information. I ignored the request but more kept coming from different fake accounts. I realized someone was trying to find me on social media so I made all my accounts private and changed my display name. Then last week, something happened that really scared me. I came home from work to find my landlord waiting for me in the parking lot. He said a woman had come to the office that morning claiming to be my mother. She said there was a family emergency and that she needed my apartment number so she could reach me. She was crying and seemed very upset. My landlord said he didn't give her my apartment number because that was against policy, but he offered to take a message. The woman said she would wait in the parking lot until I got home from work. My landlord said she had been there for about 3 hours before giving up and leaving. I asked him to describe the woman. Based on his description, it was definitely my mom. She had somehow found out where I lived and had driven 8 hours to my city to ambush me at my apartment. The thought of her watching my building and waiting for me made me feel sick. I called Lisa immediately. She said she had no idea my mom was planning to drive to my city. She said my mom had been acting increasingly desperate over the past few weeks. She had been calling family members and begging them to help her find me. She was telling people that she was afraid I was in some kind of trouble and that she needed to make sure I was okay. Lisa said my dad's unemployment benefits were running out and that my parents were getting behind on their mortgage payments. Zoe was still living at home and not contributing any money. The stress was affecting my mom's health and she had started taking anxiety medication. Lisa thought my mom was having some kind of breakdown. I felt bad that my parents were struggling financially, but I also knew that wasn't my responsibility. They had made their choices when they supported Zoe over me. They couldn't expect me to solve their problems now just because I was doing well. I decided I needed to take stronger action to protect myself. I contacted a lawyer and asked about getting a restraining order. The lawyer said showing up at my apartment building might not be enough for a restraining order, but that I should document everything in case the behavior escalated. He advised me to contact the police if my mom showed up again. I also talked to my landlord about the situation. I explained that I had cut off contact with my family for personal reasons and that I didn't want them to have any information about me. He understood and said he would not give out any information about me to anyone, even if they claimed to be family. 3 days after my mom's visit, I got a call at work from our receptionist. She said a woman was in the lobby asking to speak with me. She said the woman claimed to be my mother and that there was a family emergency. I told the receptionist to tell the woman that I was not available and to ask her to leave. If she refused to leave, she should call security. 10 minutes later, the receptionist called back. She said the woman had become upset when told I wasn't available. She started crying and saying that she just needed 5 minutes to talk to her daughter. Security had to escort her out of the building. She left a letter addressed to me with the receptionist. I was shaking when I went downstairs to get the letter. The receptionist said the woman seemed desperate but not dangerous. She said security would be aware of the situation in case the woman came back. I took the letter and went back to my office to read it. The letter was handwritten and several pages long. My mom wrote that she was sorry for showing up at my work but that she didn't know how else to reach me. She said she understood that I was angry but that she needed me to know how much the family was struggling. She said my dad was depressed about being unemployed and that Zoe was having panic attacks about her future. She wrote that she knew she had made mistakes as a mother but that she was trying to learn and do better. She said she would do anything to have me back in her life and that she missed me every day. She said the family felt incomplete without me and that she realized now how important I was to all of them. Then the letter took a different tone. She wrote that she knew I was successful and that she was proud of me for doing so well. She said it hurt her to know that I had a nice life while my family was falling apart. She said she understood that I didn't owe them anything but that she hoped I would find it in my heart to help them during this difficult time. She asked if I could loan them some money to help with the mortgage payments. She said it would just be temporary until my dad found a new job. She also asked if there were any job opportunities at my company that might be suitable for Zoe. She said Zoe was finally ready to get serious about her career and that a fresh start in a new city might be exactly what she needed. The letter ended with my mom saying that she would keep trying to reach me until I agreed to talk to her. She said she wasn't going to give up on our relationship and that she would do whatever it took to bring me home. She said family was forever and that we needed to work through our problems together. Reading the letter made me realize that my mom's visit wasn't about missing me or wanting to rebuild our relationship. It was about money and getting me to help solve their problems. Even her apology was just a setup to ask for financial help and a job for Zoe. She was treating me like a resource instead of a daughter. I showed the letter to Marcus. He said it was manipulative and that my mom was trying to guilt me into helping by talking about the family's struggles. He said the fact that she ended the letter by threatening to keep bothering me until I responded showed that she didn't respect my boundaries at all. I made copies of the letter and documented the dates and times of all my mom's contact attempts. I sent an email to my company's security department explaining the situation and asking them to ban my mother from the building. I also contacted the police non-emergency line to report the harassment and get advice on next steps. The police officer I spoke with said that while my mom's behavior was concerning, it didn't rise to the level of criminal harassment yet. He said I should continue documenting everything and call them if she showed up at my home or workplace again. He also suggested that I might want to send a formal cease and desist letter to make it clear that I wanted no contact. I decided to follow his advice. I had my lawyer draft a cease and desist letter explaining that I wanted no contact from my family and that any further attempts to contact me or visit my home or workplace would be considered harassment. The letter was sent to my parents' address by certified mail. I hoped this would finally make them understand that I was serious about not wanting them in my life. I had built something good without them and I wasn't going to let them destroy it. Update 3: The cease and desist letter worked for about 2 weeks. Then everything escalated in ways I never expected. My cousin Lisa called me on a Tuesday morning. She said my mom had received the letter and had completely lost it. She drove to Lisa's house crying and saying that I was trying to destroy the family. She said I was being cruel and vindictive and that she didn't understand how I could be so heartless toward my own parents. Lisa said my mom was convinced that I had a legal team helping me and that I was planning to take some kind of legal action against the family. She was telling people that I was rich now and that I was using my money to hurt them. She was acting like I was the villain in the situation instead of someone who just wanted to be left alone. But that wasn't the worst part. Lisa said my mom had started calling my extended family members and telling them that I was refusing to help during a family crisis. She was asking my aunts and uncles and cousins to contact me on her behalf. She was giving out details about my dad's unemployment and their financial problems and making it sound like I was selfish for not helping. Some family members believed her story and started reaching out to me. I got messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years asking me to call home and help my parents. They didn't know the real reason I had cut contact and they thought I was being petty over some minor disagreement. I had to explain the situation to several family members who contacted me. Some understood once they heard my side of the story. Others said that regardless of what happened in the past, I should help my parents because they were family. The whole thing was exhausting and embarrassing. Then things got worse. Lisa called me the following week with news that made my stomach drop. She said my mom and Zoe had been planning something together. They had been asking questions about my job and my boyfriend and my daily routine. Lisa thought they were planning to show up at my apartment again, possibly with other family members this time. I contacted my lawyer immediately. He said the cease and desist letter created a clear record that I had told them to stop contacting me. If they showed up at my home or workplace again, I would have grounds for a restraining order. He advised me to call the police immediately if they appeared. I also told Marcus what was happening. He said I should stay at his place for a few days until things calmed down. I packed a bag and moved some of my important documents to his apartment. I felt ridiculous having to hide from my own family, but I didn't want to deal with another confrontation. 3 days later, my landlord called me. He said 2 women had come to the apartment office asking about me again. When he told them he couldn't give out tenant information, they said they were going to wait in the parking lot until I came home. He said they were still there several hours later when he left work. I called the police and explained the situation. I told them about the cease and desist letter and that I was afraid my family members were going to keep harassing me. The officer said they would send someone to check the parking lot and ask the women to leave. The police called me back an hour later. They said they had spoken to 2 women in the parking lot who admitted to being my mother and sister. The women said there was a family emergency and that they needed to speak with me urgently. When the officer explained that I had requested no contact, my mom became very upset and started crying. The officer said my mom kept insisting that there was a misunderstanding and that if she could just talk to me for 5 minutes, everything would be resolved. She said I was her daughter and that she had a right to see me. The officer had to explain several times that I was an adult and that I had the right to choose who I wanted in my life. Finally, the women agreed to leave. The officer said they seemed to understand that they could be arrested for trespassing if they returned. He said I should call immediately if they showed up again because their behavior was becoming concerning. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong again. The next day, Marcus got a call at his office. The receptionist said a woman was asking to speak with him about his girlfriend Maya. She said it was urgent and that she was calling about a family matter. Marcus told them to take a message, but the woman refused to leave one. She said she would call back. The calls continued for 3 days. My mom had somehow found out where Marcus worked and was trying to get to me through him. Marcus's coworkers were getting annoyed with the constant calls. His boss asked him what was going on because the woman was being disruptive and claiming there was an emergency. Marcus had to explain to his boss that his girlfriend's estranged mother was harassing their office. It was embarrassing for both of us. Marcus told his receptionist to stop taking calls from the woman and to hang up if she called again. That weekend, we discovered that my mom had found Marcus's address too. We came back to his apartment to find a letter taped to his door. The letter was addressed to both of us and was written by my mom. She wrote that she was sorry for bothering us but that she was desperate to talk to me. She said she understood that I was angry but that cutting off all contact was extreme and hurtful. She said she had raised me better than to abandon my family when they needed me most. The letter said that my dad was getting sicker from the stress of being unemployed and that Zoe was having serious depression issues. She said the family was falling apart without me and that she didn't know what else to do. She begged me to at least send a message letting them know I was okay and that I still cared about them. She also wrote that she knew Marcus was a good influence on me and that she hoped he would encourage me to do the right thing. She said she was sure that if he understood how much pain the family was in, he would help convince me to come home. Reading the letter made me realize that my mom was never going to stop. She was escalating her behavior instead of respecting my boundaries. She was now involving my boyfriend in his workplace. She was treating my request for no contact as a temporary tantrum instead of a serious decision. I made copies of all the letters and documented every incident. I went back to my lawyer and filed for a restraining order against both my mom and Zoe. The lawyer said I had enough evidence to show a pattern of harassment that was affecting my work and personal life. The restraining order was granted 2 weeks later. It prohibited my mom and Zoe from contacting me directly or indirectly, coming to my home or workplace, or having anyone else contact me on their behalf. It also covered Marcus's home and workplace since they had involved him in the harassment. Lisa called me after my family received the restraining order paperwork. She said my mom was devastated and couldn't understand how things had gotten so bad. She kept saying that she was just trying to reach her daughter and that she didn't deserve to be treated like a criminal. Lisa said my mom was telling people that I had turned into a completely different person and that my success had made me cold and heartless. She was acting like I was the one who had done something wrong by protecting myself from their harassment. But Lisa also told me something interesting. She said that after receiving the restraining order, my dad finally got angry with my mom and Zoe. He said their behavior was embarrassing and that they needed to leave me alone. He said they had brought this situation on themselves and that they couldn't blame me for wanting nothing to do with them. Apparently, my dad started looking for work more seriously after that. He got a job at a hardware store that paid much less than his previous job, but it was income. He told my mom and Zoe that they needed to find their own solutions instead of expecting me to rescue them. It's been 4 months since the restraining order was issued. I haven't heard from my family since then. Lisa says my mom still talks about me sometimes but that she seems to have accepted that I'm not coming back. Zoe got a job at a restaurant and is slowly getting her life together. My dad is working and seems less depressed. I've been able to focus on my own life again. Marcus and I moved in together and we're talking about getting engaged. I got another promotion at work and I'm thinking about starting my own consulting business. I've been taking more photography classes and I'm planning to have a small showing of my work next month. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice by cutting off all contact with my family. But then I remember how they treated me my whole life and how they only wanted me back when they needed something from me. I remember how they supported Zoe when she stole my fiancé and how they expected me to just get over it and move on. I built a good life without their support and I'm not going to let them take that away from me. I have people who care about me for who I am, not for what I can do for them. That's enough for me. The restraining order expires in 2 years. I hope by then my family will have learned to respect my decision and leave me alone. If not, I'll renew it. I'm done being the family member who exists to solve everyone else's problems while my own needs get ignored. I'm finally living for myself instead of trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it to me anyway.